This year's State of the Nation address comes at a pivotal moment in South Africa's history. It's the first SONA since the Government of National Unity was formed, a fragile coalition born out of the ANC's historic loss of its majority in the 2024 elections. Against a backdrop of rising unemployment, persistent load shedding, at least for 10 months has been safe, and a growing public frustration, President Ramaphosa faces the daunting task of uniting a fractured political landscape while addressing the urgent needs of a nation in crisis. Now, to unpack what we can expect from this critical address, we're joined by governance analyst, Professor Mazwe Majola. Professor Majola, good to speak to you. Now, what are the most pressing issues that President Ramaphosa needs to address in his speech, the first speech for the government, the first SONA, rather, in this Government of National Unity?
And good afternoon to you, Hugo. Thank you, my brother. Well, indeed, South Africans are waiting with bated breath to hear what the president is going to say in as far as the state of the nation. You know, what is the state of the country as things stand now? Of course, we know that this is the first time the president will be delivering his SONA after the formation of the Government of National Unity, which means that during the cabinet, different departments or ministers contributed and made inputs, and these are some of them are not members of the ANC, or they're not ministers of the ANC as it used to be in the last administrations. The president must take the country into his confidence in terms of what has happened after the formation of the Government of National Unity. I'm sure you'll be speaking about the stability, the certainty that the GNU has brought together amid, obviously, the differences, the challenges within GNU, and also a report on what has happened since his State of the Nation of 2024. He promised certain things. Now he must come back and account and say, I said this would do, but we did this and this and this. And we couldn't do 1, 2, 3 because of this and this, and also provide and outline the policies, the plans, and the strategy moving forward for the next year. Now this will be within now the Government of National Unity context to say the next year this is what we are going to do for our country.
Well, I like the issue that you raised, the GNU, because it raises my next question. And it speaks to, is this address likely to address the expectations of the GNU as opposed to the ANC?
Well, the GNU is part of the state of the country, Hugo. So you can't separate them really. But as long as it's a GNU within the government, in terms of what the government has done. So I assume those ministers from Home Affairs, from Agriculture, from Correctional Services, and from Public Works, and others who are not the ANC ministers would have contributed into this statement that is going to be read by the president. So when they go there, really it's more about the government, because last year, February 2024, remember, we were, going to the election. So whatever that was happening there, yes, there were challenges, the challenges of the energy sector, the load shedding at that time, obviously unemployment, the poverty, the crime, and all those challenges. Now you'll be saying that what we have achieved since 2024, or rather February 2024, because he's not been talking about what happened from June 2024. He'll be talking about what happened after his address that he made in February 2024 until now, and then outline what is going to happen moving ahead in this year or in this financial year. Now, obviously, that will incorporate the GNU, what is happening in the government.
So Professor, you expect President Cyril Ramaphosa, despite the fact that he's got obligations to the ANC as a party, the tripartite or the alliance of partners as well, that his address will be right down the middle, that he will be fair to all those involved?
And it is going to be a challenge for him for the first time, because remember that the SONA statement would have informed by different stages. In the early in the year would have been the January 8 statement, which will inform the ANC Lekgotla. From ANC Lekgotla, then they would go to Cabinet Lekgotla, which they've done. But previously, that would have been only the ANC policies and the ANC's influence there. So whatever happened now from the January 8 statement to the ANC Lekgotla, which culminated to the Cabinet Lekgotla, now the Cabinet Lekgotla would have not only looked into what the ANC's policies, they would have presented whatever policies, whatever plans, but then would have debated and discussed and also get inputs and contributions from other parties that are forming the GNU. So this year, definitely, for the first time, this will be a challenging task for the president, but unfortunately he has to do it because he can't go there as though the ANC is the only one that is in government. Unfortunately, the ANC did not get majority, and the ANC finds itself within this GNU. So for the first time, this time around, he cannot just go there and present all the ANC policies as they are, unless Cabinet Lekgotla agreed and approved those policies. Because what is going to be addressing on Thursday is what transpired in the Cabinet Lekgotla.
So let's talk about accountability. What role can opposition parties play in holding the government accountable post-SONA? And just how much time does President Cyril Ramaphosa, as head of the Government of National Unity, have in order to effect the promises that he's likely to make?
Well, he must do it immediately, of course, because you say something, but you've got to implement it. You know, he can go there and say, this is what we'll be doing. Then he must show that or demonstrate that by execution and by implementation. And that is where now the opposition comes in, because the opposition are there to hold the government accountable. The opposition are there to provide alternative policies, alternative vision, alternative leadership style. They are there to represent the whole country. Actually, good opposition parties, they are not only there to represent their own, especially the main opposition party in parliament is not only there or shouldn't be there just only to represent its own members' interest, but by the fact that you are playing this role of being a main opposition party, then we are representing the whole country in terms of providing alternative into the government, and also make sure that you hold the government accountable into its decisions or lack thereof. It's not only about just making noise there and disrupt things, but it's there really to play a role of being opposition in providing alternative.
Professor, you said that the president should take the nation into his confidence. We haven't seen too much of that in the recent past. You've also talked about the things that he's going to talk about, the successes since last year's SONA. So issues around load shedding, in fact, that for 10 months, there's been no load shedding until 2 days ago. And even then, Eskom has announced that load shedding has ceased as of this weekend. Now, there's also the issue of the DRC and the SANDF forces that are fighting there at the moment. 14 of those soldiers have lost their lives in the last few days. Is this a conversation that he's likely to address in the SONA?
Absolutely, he will have to address that, starting from, as you were saying, the achievements from the last financial year. Obviously, we'll have to highlight those achievements, what they've achieved, the load shedding issue or the energy action plan. He will bring the crime statistics, what has happened with Operation Shanela, Operation Vulamkoti. He will have to talk about the unemployment. I remember that the third quarter, I think the unemployment third quarter was about 32.1%, reduced from I think 33.5 in the second quarter. So you'll be highlighting all those achievements. What happened in the formation of government of national unity since then, from June, what has been achievements in the country in terms of economic growth, in terms of stability. But you're right, then you'll have to talk about the looming crisis, about water, the water crisis that is coming, about issues, as you're saying, the issues that is taking place in DRC and other countries. We will talk about the coming of the G20 summit that South Africa will be convening. I mean, that's an achievement. And we'll talk about other multilateral issues. So what is important for him, as I've always been saying that, and that is why I opened this interview by saying he must take the nation into his confidence, because talking and talking and talking, it's not going to help a South African. He must really convince South Africans that the GNU it's a correct and that's what the country, or rather it's a correct governance for the country, and things will change moving forward in the next coming year, because people that's what they want to hear. People, they want the bread and butter issues. What is going to happen? Yes, the issue of electricity has been improved somehow. What about water? There's an issue with water. What about crime? What about unemployment? About, all those things. What about education problem? We celebrated the high rate of matric pass, which was very good. But we've heard that there are no spaces from universities to admit these children who passed very well. Where are they going to go? What is going to happen with them? Are they going to stay at home? Those problems that really he must address in terms of moving forward. The whole issue of home affairs and the border management authority, what they've achieved before, what moving forward, what are they going to do? So yeah, it's important so that anyone who listens to him must have that positivity and optimism. Someone must say that, or a South African must say that, wow, I'm looking forward for this year. It seems like things are going to change. Things are going to happen in my country. But it mustn't be just, an old story of just talking, and then nothing happens.
So I'm inclined to ask this question as we wrap up, Professor. And it speaks to the accusations that have been levelled against President Cyril Ramaphosa in the past. And if I do recall, one of those accusations came in from the DA leader, John Steenhuisen, who said that SONA is not about the ANC. It should be reflective of the country at large. Now, I think that President Cyril Ramaphosa will be hard-pressed not to separate the two for two good reasons. One of those reasons is, in as much as he tries to be objective, he's also leader of the ANC, who going into a 2026 very, very important local government election, right? How does he praise members of the GNU and also safeguard the interests of the ANC ahead of 2026?
Yeah, he will have to play around with that. That is why he's a leader. And that's the cost of leadership. That when you're a leader, you are expected to, to do certain things that a follower would not do. But I think the president would really, in his achievements of last year, also maybe without praising the ANC as a party, but in terms of talking about the transformative policies that they've passed, your Bila Act, your NHI, your Expropriation Act, all those he will talk about in terms of this is what we have done in the past. And obviously, the ANC person will know that that's coming. Those are their policies, come from them. And for the first time, the DA will not be, accusing or attacking the president as they usually did in the last, because now they're part of government. So it's the MKP now who will be bringing that in terms of what are they saying about the SONA and obvious other opposition parties. But I think the president will have a way of putting together a statement that will talk to or that will appease the GNU parties while also talking about the achievements from the ANC's policies.
Professor Mazwe Majola, governance analyst, speaking to us ahead of Thursday's State of the Nation address, which makes it the first State of the Nation address since the Government of National Unity. A lot to look forward to in that conversation.